Charlie. No, I wasn't waiting around. I just got in. Here, by the way, pardon. It might be a little glitchy. Um,
You're good.
but I'm curious if you. I guess it's two different questions. Did you become comfortable with your daily routine last year? Um, for your sort of daily preparation routine for games with all of the different restrictions. Um, and do you know for certain that all of those things will still be in place this year? I mean, are you going to have to feel out how you're going to go through your day to day stuff?
Right. So last year, we changed a bunch of things, and so there's an adjustment period. I'm pretty habitual. I stick to my routine, that sort of thing. And there were just some things that I had to change. If you wanted to play baseball this year, you've got to change them. So eventually, I was able to make those changes and change what normal was for me. So yes, I got to a point to where I was comfortable, ready to play ball. And as far as this year, it looks to me like they're taking more steps to ensure the health and safety of players and fans. So I think if anything this year it's going to be more changes. And I think do I like it? No. Do I like that it gives us a much greater chance of keeping everybody healthy and make sure that the game is going to be played? Yes, I like that. So it's necessary to an extent, or at least early on. I think early is going to tell us a lot. And hopefully once things get warmer, there's more vaccine distribution, I think things will get better.
Well, I think you might have mentioned this last year, but what is a thing or a few things that you missed the most about the preparation? I seem to remember it was like harder to do video, like prep.
Yeah. So I like to do all my scouting at the field. I come in, that's where I work at the baseball field. I go into my computer lab. I got my people there, and that's where I scout. And that was more or less not something I could do last year. So I had to do it by myself on an iPad in the hotel room. It's just something. Yeah, I mean, is it that big of a deal? Probably not. It's just I'm pretty resistant to change and didn't want to change, so I had to do that. There were more restrictions when it comes to the hot tank, cold tank, which is a big part of recovery for me. So that was more of a post-game change that I had to make. And in-game video, once again, that was, I guess that was partially a COVID thing, partially a sign stealing thing. That's a big change for me. And I think some of that has changed going forward this year, and some of it hasn't.
And then just finally, and the reason I'm asking is because I know that you're that you get so much benefit out of your routine. Just being in weird times in general, last season and this season, and then on top of that, the idea that your team is going through a lot of changes also on the roster specifically. Do you feel at all unsettled? Are you going to have to kind of come to grips with all of these changes at all? Personally?
The beauty of spring training is like you kind of start with this super broad focus, and right now I'm just kind of trying to make my body feel good and getting used to being back in Arizona and waking up at 6 a.m, and then it'll be another couple weeks before I'm really worried about my swing, and then it'll be another week or two before I start thinking about the season. And so I think there's some things that are going to be different, and I just haven't addressed them mentally, because right now I'm not there yet. It's still early in spring training, but I do think none of these changes are going to be super drastic or anything that I won't be able to deal with. I think the biggest shock to my system was last year, right? We came in with this crazy fake spring training. I guess it wasn't fake, whatever you want to call it, spring training 2.0, and then I had the virus. I mean, and then for the first time we're dealing with all these restrictions. Last year is going to be much more of an adjustment than this year.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
All right, Pat Graham, go ahead.
Hey Charlie, thanks for taking the time. Really appreciate it. Good to see you. I'm kind of piggybacking a little bit off Nick's questions. I don't mean to bombard you with this, but there's some talk in the first part of spring training that they may go to 5 innings or 7 innings instead of 9. I was just wondering, how does that affect your preparation? I mean, I know that you come out of the games early, but how will you kind of augment that with, like, will you go to the batting cages after that, or how does that work? How will that work for you?
Honestly, I probably won't change a single thing. I've done the spring training thing. I have a pretty good feel for how much time and when I need to play a certain amount of innings, and it's pretty regimented for me. And as long as I can stay on track, and I think we'll play enough baseball to where I can stay on track. I don't think, at least early on, is when I expect to see shortened games due to there not being as many people in camp and there's not as many innings to be thrown by the pitchers. I think at that time I'll also be in a situation where I'm still building up. So I don't really anticipate having to make any changes to what I feel like is normal for me in spring training.
Good answer. And then my other question would be, you were one of the guys who kind of kept this team together in light of the Nolen Arenado deal, and they praised you for kind of helping out in Desmond and Story, I guess. And then Carl Freeland came out and said, we could shock the world. Don't give up on us. I guess. Do you like being an underdog, and do you like this role? I mean, no one expects anything from you guys. You guys can just do your thing and fly under the radar.
Personally, I don't really care what anybody else thinks about me or the team. I don't think you guys have any. You don't have as much of an idea as I do and the people inside the clubhouse. Let's just say that's fair. So I don't really let what people think outside the clubhouse affect what I do, inside the clubhouse, right? If I were to let the fact that some member of the national media says we're going to stink this year or whatever, if I let that change how I feel or how I think or how I prepare, like, what kind of professional player am I? So really, I'm going to do my best, like I do every year, and I expect the same from my teammates around me. And I think we're going to go out there and be super competitive and play good baseball.
And then my last one would be this. Ryan McMahon is looking like he could, he's going to be at third, trying to replace Nolan. I don't want to say replace because that's not fair. Just give us a little Cliff Notes version of Ryan. What does he bring to the field?
Really, really high ceiling for Ryan. First and foremost, when he played second base every day, he was much better than I thought he was going to be. He really is a good defender. And that was playing second, which really isn't his natural position. I haven't seen him play a lot of third. I definitely haven't seen him play third consistently. So I think if he can just move on a dime and play second really well, I expect him to do pretty great at third. Right, Nolan is one of the best defenders there is, but in his own right, I think Ryan McMahon is going to be a good third baseman. But that's not as exciting as his power potential. He has incredible power, and I think he's going to be a big part of our lineup this year. And I just want to see him go out there and play baseball every day. Just show up, play hard, do the best he can, and then bring it the very next day. And I think if he does that, I think he'll look up at the end of the season and he'll be happy with what he's done.
Thanks for your time.
All right, guys, if you can limit yourselves to 2 questions, that would be helpful with time here. Patrick Saunders, you are next.
Hi, Charlie. How are you, sir?
Great.
Good. Can you give me a quick assessment, if you would, of your outfield teammates? It's a pretty young group outside of yourself, especially now that Desi's gone. Just a thumbnail on the potential of some of those guys.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Ramel Tapia took a huge step forward last year, like giant leap for him. Came out in a position of need and really was a good leadoff hitter. Super competitive in the box. Maybe that might be his best quality. He's just hard to get out. He can really lock in every at bat, and he's he hit 300 last year, and we needed that leadoff presence. And so hopefully he can build on that And then we have Sam Hilliard, who is one of the more toolsy guys we have on the team. He reminds me a lot of Trevor Story. He's super fast, very good power, just super athletic, like all over. And he's been able to make some adjustments at the big league level. And so I'm looking for him to take another step forward this year as well. And then you've got a couple guys in the mix, I think a big part of our team this year will be Garrett Hampson and his versatility. I think you'll see him in the outfield. I think you'll see him in the infield. And of course, his best tool is speed. And the Rockies always need versatility. We need someone to be able to move around the field and play multiple positions and, give guys days off, or if someone is tight for a day, they can, he can step in and play. And I think he's going to be, very productive in that role this year.
Cool. One more for you, Charlie. The offense, I think you're well aware, has been inconsistent over the last couple of seasons. You've had some highlights, but overall it hasn't produced like you need to as a team. Do you think that an overall change in approach would be good for this group of guys? And what I'm getting there is you do have good team speed. The homers, I suppose, are going to come, but do you think you guys need to be more of a advanced the runner kind of offense?
I think that's a really good question. Me personally, I feel like offense is sometimes a team game and sometimes it's individual. And I think what we need players to excel individually, right? Like I need Ramel Tapia to do the same thing he did last year, like really grind at bats and try and get on base a lot. And then I want Ryan McMahon to drive in runs. I think Trevor Story is going to be Mr. Do-It-All. I want him, I think he can hit for average. I think he can hit for power, drive in runs. I think he can do that. And so I think we just need to have each player be better. That's super elementary, but I felt like last year was kind of a perfect storm of multiple players underperforming all in the same year. And I just think we can't have that this year. I think we've got to be better. And I don't think taking an approach like station to station or super situational hitting or trying to hit more home runs, I don't think you can take a blanket statement that is always good offensively. Like it's always great to hit more home runs, but to take that and then try and stamp that onto every player in the lineup, I don't think works. I think you've got to help each player reach their potential at whatever it is their strengths are, and then fit them together as a team.
Great answer. Thanks, Charlie.
All right, Thomas Harding, go ahead.
Yes, Charlie, just to look back at last season and the ups and downs of it, what enjoyment did you get out of it, and what parts of it that you were so happy when the season ended?
Thomas, I always love playing baseball, and any day I'm healthy and get to go out and play a big league baseball game is just an incredible day. And I think that sort of helps me keep things in perspective. And I think there were a lot of good things that came from last year. We got a lot more experience. Our young guys got more experience. We got to use guys in the bullpen that we haven't used before. I just think a lot has happened that's going to help us this year, right? Last year was a tough year, but the thing about baseball is that if nothing bad ever happens, if you don't ever struggle, I just feel like you don't get any better. You don't make any adjustments. And as much as I'd love to just be successful all the time, it's a really tough game, and I would never be pushed to get better. And if you want to feel alive, go out there and get your butt kicked, or strike out in a big spot, or make that error that loses the game. Like that's, for me, that's when I feel the most alive. I hate it, and I want to change it, and I don't let it happen again. And so I think there's good things that happen from last year, bad things, and but I think all of it will be for the better for 2021.
How and you talked a bit about offensive baseball being an individual thing. Baseball can be a very individual thing. How much, though, are you trying to rub off on teammates now? Not everybody prepares the way you do, thinks the way you do. Are you at a stage where maybe you can impart some of that wisdom to others, or really is that you have to figure out?
I think so. I think a big part of what I want to do now is really have a sense of where everybody's at individually. Just because I've gotten a hit off of this one guy before because I faced him 30 times and this other guy who's never faced him before, I just think there's, like, for me to just bludgeon him with information doesn't help. I think what I need to understand is, hey, this guy is, doesn't have that many at-bats and is, he just doesn't, like, what information do they need at the time? And sometimes it's, I need to instill confidence in them. Sometimes it is the fact that they might need a scouting report. Or sometimes it's they just need to vent about their swing, and just have somebody, like, let them know that they care and listen to what they have to say. So I think sometimes just having that feel for, what does each player need from a really good teammate, I think that's what I'm going to try and do this year. And that doesn't always mean, telling people what I think makes their swing better, right? That's almost never the case.
Are you comfortable with that? Have you gotten more comfortable over the years?
Yes, I feel pretty comfortable, and I think one of my strengths is more of a one-on-one conversation, and it's, I think that is much more productive than getting the whole group together and saying, hey, we got to do this or do that. Like, I think that's necessary at times, but I think more gains are made with a one-on-one conversation than large groups.
And just last one, I hate to add extra, but do you feel like more guys on the team can have those detailed baseball conversations? Is the knowledge base there? Because once you get to a certain level, you can talk about those, but sometimes you just try to keep your head above water.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And like I said, there's certain times when guys can look big picture and really try and take the next step. And then there's certain times where I'm just trying to tread water. I'm struggling, and I just need to feel competitive, right? And that's the season. You have ups and downs, and it's everybody. It's me. It's everybody has that at certain times. I just think, the better players have fewer dips and spend more time, like, somewhere up here trying to, like, push the ceiling up.
All right, Brian Madden, go ahead.
Hey, it's actually Michael Spencer from CBS 4. Charlie, take us back a couple weeks, and what were your initial thoughts when you found out that Nolan had been traded?
Well, I mean, my first thought is, I don't get to play with one of my buddies, and that hurts. He's a guy I enjoy being around. He's a guy that I'll certainly keep in touch with as we go forward. Secondly, he's a great baseball player, and anytime you take a great baseball player off of a team, you're going to lose some whatever that production is. And him being a good player, we're going to lose some production. And then I think that the third part of that coins only have two parts. Anyway, the third part is now I'm thinking, okay, well, how do we move forward in the wake of his absence? And that's the part that doesn't scare me as much as it did, initially when it first happened. When I look around and I see, the talent in the locker room, who's going to replace him, and what it means for our team. Like, I think we still have a good team. We have lots of talent. I think it seems bad being that we didn't have a great season last year, but at the same time, we had so many players underperform, including myself. Like, there was a huge dip there. And so I think if we come out and do what we're capable of doing, we're going to play well.
A non-baseball one for you. What's life like as a new dad?
It's great. It's it keeps me on my toes. It's kind of like trying to figure out a Rubik's Cube. Like you just know you're never going to do it, but you keep trying. But it's super rewarding and it's exciting, and it's a fun experience to share with my wife.
Thanks, man. Happy for you guys.
Thank you.
All right, Mark Kisla, go ahead.
First of all, I want to thank you for the philosophy of you never feel more alive than when you get your butt kicked, because I must be the most alive guy on the planet. So I appreciate you for that. Let's just, early in this conversation, I think we established the outside view of the Rockies is you guys stink. And your view is you don't care. Why do you think this team can be so good?
Because we have good players is the short answer. Because the potential of each player the potential of most of our players that I expect to see on the field for the Rockies is well above league average, right? And if you look around at our lineup and yeah, maybe it's cherry picking to say, wow, this guy was really, really good at one point in his career. A lot of guys can do that. But I think there's a lot of guys that have the ability to do that consistently that haven't done it yet, right? We've seen Kyle Freeland be an unbelievable pitcher. We've seen him be not so great. But last year he was really, really good, take a huge step forward. And so I'm expecting him to be closer to that really, really good Cy Young conversation pitcher than he was 2 years ago when he had a bad year, right? So there's a perfect example. I think we have a handful of guys that are poised to play somewhere up here rather than somewhere down here where where we were last year, or we were at times when things weren't going well.
And to follow up along the dad lines, having been a dad, or I am a dad myself, what's harder and what's more rewarding, hitting a baseball or being a dad?
Good question. The right answer is obviously being a dad. That's the right answer. But I'll tell you what, I really like getting hits. Love getting hits. Want to win everything. And yeah, there are more important things than baseball. Anyway, yeah, I love my family and love my daughter. But I still really, really want to win baseball games and feel like I'm not going to have any trouble being 100% focused on baseball.
Thank you.
All right, Noah Yingling, then we'll get Owen after you for the last question.
Hey, Charlie, thanks for the time. To follow up a little bit on your answer to Michael Spencer's question, your big drop-off when you started the season hitting 500 in the first 17 games, you hit 216 in the following games after that. Were there any big changes that you happen to see video-wise, whether that was in the off-season or this spring, that you want to adjust back to when you were hitting 500?
No. So at the end of the year, I'll sit down, what could I have done differently? What did I do well? And that's a situation where I try to diagnose, why did I spend more time down here than I should have? And so I've figured out kind of more or less what I think it was. And address that problem and try and keep it from happening in the future. Yeah, but it's rarely mechanics for me. Sometimes it is, but usually it'll be mental or an aggressiveness thing. I don't feel like I have some glaring mechanical issue in my swing. There's none of that I'm trying to address.
Okay. And also too, obviously with Ian Desmond not being there anymore, at least for now, and Nolan not being there, obviously you are the most veteran player on the team. Leadership wise, outside of you this spring training, have you seen anybody really step up into more of that leadership role?
Yeah, I think we might have already touched on it, but I see Trevor really, really taking big steps forward and that, it's really hard to do the leadership thing, right? There's a cycle, right? And we've seen Trevor take this cycle. You get called up to the big leagues, you're a young player, and you're super wide-eyed, like drinking from a water hose or fire hose, and then next step is, all right, now I'm just trying to keep my head above water and be competitive, and then and we've certainly seen him then be really, really good at baseball, and he's continuing to get better. Now he's doing it more consistently year after year, a great player, and now you see him look around and say, wow, I can make these other guys around me better. I can help this guy, or I can take on more responsibility as a leader. And so I'm starting to see that from him, and I'm starting to see a lot of the younger guys, progress on that ladder of being overwhelmed because I'm in the big leagues. Now they're, tasting success or playing well at times, and I think they're on their path to being comfortable with them and how to play their game, and they're like right, at the cusp of leadership. So I'm seeing a lot of guys progress from a leadership standpoint.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, Owen Perkins, you have the last question.
Hey, Charlie, good to see you. I wanted to ask about this early part of spring training, almost unique in a potential 8-month plus stretch of baseball from February to October without the games every day. What does that period mean to you? What do you get out of it? Do you anticipate year to year getting some value out of that time period? And can you think of things that have been important to you that come in this early stage of the training?
I'm sorry, what time period was it that you were?
Like the current one, before the games start at spring training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I love spring training. A lot of people don't like it. I think it's great for a lot of reasons. You get to see your friends again for the first time in a while. You're cranking back up. You've been hiding somewhere in some cold, dark batting cage somewhere for the last few months, and now you're out in the sun, and you're just happy. And then you get to just start playing the game for fun, right? Like, yes, there's stats in spring training. Yes, there's competition and jobs to be won and jobs to be lost. But it's a little more relaxed. You're playing. It's new and fresh and fun. So I really enjoy spring training, and I love this time where you get to wake up and play during the day, and then you have your evenings to go hang out with your family. I think spring training is really cool. So there's no part of my year that I wish would just hurry up and pass. I enjoy every stage, but there's a lot to like about spring training. And yeah, I enjoy it.
And just to hone in a little more, before you start playing the exhibition games in this, that first week or so, what about that? Is that a time that you get some value, some things important in that before you get to the games, the exhibition games?
Yeah, honestly, my focus during that time, it's always a big transition for me from going to wherever I'm training in the off season. And honestly, I think I do a good job in the off season. Like I think I'm in shape. I'm ready to play. I'm strong. I've been hitting. No matter how good your off season program is, there's always an adjustment going from that to being on a field with your teammates, in front of the coaching staff, on a spring training field. Like, there's just a level of intensity where it just goes up, like no way around it, no matter what you're doing in the off season. And so I think just making that jump is kind of what I'm focused on, this first week before games start. And it's making sure my body's ready to play. That's most of what it is getting my body ready to play. Transitioning into that super competitive, world-class athlete type intensity, which is hard to simulate, at home in the batting cage.